All right, welcome to Morning Express. You're with us with Senator Hassan, Omar, and Ambrose, Weda, who just before the break are taking a lot of jibes. The Senator, we must respond.
I talked about I said that they are too preoccupied with elections 2017. I think they are living in denial that they lost, and they lost round one. And they lost the majority in the Senate, they lost the majority in the National. That is natural to live in denial, and you need therapy. But looking at the country Kenya, they should appreciate that this electioneering way of doing things disrupts the economy, it disrupts even the process of securing the country. Above that, when you go to those meetings you said you went to, the ones you said you went to over the weekend, spreading what again disrupts security. What would be a cousin to hate speech, a cousin or a sister to hate speech. Now, all this makes it difficult for us to secure the country in the way it should be. It should be best that the question of security are handled together. Together means Raila and his court brigade, the president and his Jubilee team. We look at the issues we look at as a nation, the issues we look at sectorally. Now, that is why I said when it comes to certain issues, even Jubilee MPs should rise above partisan party issues to address.
Whether someone should lead this, though, it doesn't happen just in a vacuum. Someone should lead this. Who's that someone who we are running away from?
It should be led by the. You see, when you are an MP, take for instance, there are things which happen in Mombasa which cannot happen in Kisumu. I can assure you.
True.
In Kisumu, you cannot just walk in from Mombasa, shoot people, and get out. The people themselves will. The moment they realize that these fellows, you will not reach Busia before they themselves get you fast. But because in Mombasa they think when people die they will get more seats. As I said, now they're very popular. If an election was called, the preoccupation with elections will make us forget the core issues. Security requires the participation of the people plus their leaders. And then it requires the leaders elected to put those who are in charge to account. They are not doing that. The only time you hear the senator talking about it is on TV here. When he goes to the Senate, nothing.
You certainly do not watch the
At the end of it,
I'll give him Hansard reports. And you know, Hansard is Senate, unlike it has a true record. Just go and do some research. You need to just go to the Hansard and Google Hassan Omar and say what we do say. So don't make adverse statements without research. You see, what happens is, it's not about popularity. It's about being in sync with the aspirations of your people constantly. It means you're simply a grassroots player in the sense that you always articulate the issues that are very passionate to the people. And that's the provision of democracy. That you, even if it is you represent a little group of people that elected you, that those aspirations must be felt at whatever level of representation. And that's the nature of our democracy, because it is an amalgamation of interests that are negotiated in various platforms and forums, at the county level, at the ward level, at every level, including the national level. I wanted to respond to a tweet you read.
Actually, let me just read the entire text for you. It's coming in from someone called Apollo Mwandembo, who is saying, I just want to ask my senator when he's going to serve the people of Mombasa. You're supposed to be a watchdog to Governor Joho. Joho has done lots of errors in our security in Mombasa, yet you're not correcting him. Mr. Senator, you are more than a friend to him than a watchdog.
Joho has no security role, absolutely. The only security role he would have had was to be the chairperson of the County Policing Authority, which have not been effected across the 47 counties. So the security is purely the work of the national government. Secondly, this preoccupation by people that a governor and a senator must fight. I can tell you a lot of governors and a lot of senators wish that they could have relationships that we are having, because there is no contradiction whatsoever. If you read the Constitution, and he certainly needs to read his Constitution, there's only one oversight, that the Senate as a collegiate is given over resources that are allocated to counties. Resources that are allocated to counties. Outside that, the Senate defends the county. It means it defends the actions of the county governor, county government, county assembly. So he's the principal ambassador at the national level. He negotiates for them. He negotiates for the county. So that oversight role that is exercised by the Senate as a collegiate is exercised through our mandate under the County Public Accounts and Investment Committee, to which I am the vice chair. And it is done also in consultations or in coordination with the Office of the Auditor General. That's why we have summoned several governors. Fortunately, none of those governors is Joho. Because if the auditor says your accounts are clean, we have no reason to summon you. So let's divorce ourselves from that narrow notion that a governor and a senator must fight, that I was elected to start as a prefecture. You know?
Well, all factors constant, just like you stated them, don't you think that maybe in one way or another, because you both belong to the same party, maybe one of you is not exactly putting the other in place, because you think, okay, fine, we're friends, but at the same time, we are party members from CORD. So what does that tell? Is there something that maybe
that shows that there's a court government, so we are not in opposition at home, we are in opposition at the national level. And secondly, just before we get there, I think I have made it my business to consult the governor on quite a number of things that I want to present, and particularly the national platform, including the Senate. Mm-hmm. The governor has made it his business to share, you know, part of the development programs and call all of us into meetings, elected particularly officials of the county, so that you are able to internalize and associate, you know, with the planning processes of the county. So that I have told him several times, if I have nothing to defend, I will not defend it. So therefore, if you're part of the process of internalization based on your own style of leadership, I think then it matters that you then probably become a cohesive team. So I think you have to look at it beyond the parameters of friendship, that yes, we share, our name is Hassan and I'm Hassan. But outside that, we also are trying to build a team that is cohesive in terms of looking at its outright agenda. It has been validated by the leader of CORD, it's his deputy and Senator Wetangula, and Kalonzo Musyoka. In fact, they've said it ever and again, including this is the ideal county in terms of how the relationships must be managed, so that we do not have this constant bickering between a governor and senator.
Ambrose, what do you have to say?
It is a national tragedy for a sitting senator to state on national TV that the governor has no role in security. Technically, the 47 governors have no role in security. It's a case for weeping or going to the mosque to pray and say, Allah, please change the mindset. The governor has that role. Even as an ordinary person, we all have a role. Now, the governor is the president of the county, the one who runs the mutuki and the emblem. They say he has no role. But because he has the goodies jar, it's a jar of the goodies, the senators who are brilliant enough are working very well with the governor, because you can get a ticket here and a ticket there, and a lunch here and a lunch there. The senators who are not working very well with their governors have constructed an act in the Senate, an act of the Senate saying, we will be chairman of development, you will have to be the secretary. Now, there are some who have done it other way around, like senator, they work very well, so they see no problem. There are others who, they are saying, you must be secretary, we will be chairman. They have also done that in the Senate. This kind of disconnect is where we are saying brews more problems. But Senator, please change and tell your governor he has a role, because that county is a basket, it's the security basket of this country. And being the governor, his role goes even to the level where if the other organs, including the county commissioner, please allow, include the county, even he's not working very well.
So that is a security basket. Bread basket, that's
I said English. The tourism basket.
Okay.
The tourism basket.
Yeah.
That's our tourism. The basket is called the tourism basket.
Mm-hmm.
Such that the governor holds, he should know that even if the county commissioner and the other security organs are not working well, it is his responsibility to ensure that either they work or something is done about it. Now, when they sit with the senator, they say, as far as we are concerned, let's just enjoy the goodies, and you have no role, and there is nothing, then that tragedy continues. And that is why I've told you there are things which happen in Mombasa which cannot happen in Kisumu. because the people are involved. We ask you to go and play your oversight role over Senator Omar. I know Governor Hassan. Joe, I know he's a very generous man. And as far as your roles are concerned, you are now leaders. You are now not Wiper or ODM. You are leaders of the county and of the country.
Well, let me tell you, sometimes you should stop being petty. You should stop being very petty on national TV. Because you see, when you start to say they are goodies, first, I decided to ignore that. I thought maybe you are a bit mature. Then you go further ahead and start saying he's a generous man. I think you should stop being petty. I think we should be coming here for a reasonable debate because I think it's just not right. Secondly, is the fact that it is nice to say the governors have security roles because right now you're failing in security. But the truth is the Constitution is there. Whether you're a lawyer, I kept making reference to you. We knew of the implicit role that we need to play in terms of ensuring that we are part and parcel of that broader organization in terms of how we manage the security of our county. That said and done, what has happened since? We've asked President Uhuru Kenyatta for a bilateral 3-4 times to discuss security. But you see, Uhuru likes to meet Sonko, and I have him on a speaker call. But in terms of real issues, tough issues, because we had said that the country's security, the county's security is our business. And when we said that, we asked him for a bilateral. Every time he comes, he hugs you. Hey, Jomo, Kesho, next week. And it gets lost there. And we said that hypocrisy, or that type of style is not our style. We want a clear style of management of our country's security. We wanted a bilateral because we wanted to hold them to a commitment. They will have a secretary seated there. We will have a secretary seated here. And based on that, the secretary will bullet actionable points. We will deliver on our part, they deliver on their part. If Joho can mobilize a few more cars, then we mobilize a few more cars. You see, if we need to mobilize any other capacity which the county is able to do, then we do it. But when it comes to other elements, we were command. We don't have command of the security agencies. The governor, not the senator, not anybody can move the police or deploy police. He cannot tell them move this way, move that way, get in here. He cannot chair security meetings or sit in the National Security Council. So therefore, there are those areas inherent that will have been their mandate for them to make certain concessions or deliver on certain commitments. So therefore, what we wanted was to have that broader organization, that broader organization of the county bilateral with the national government, where we bullet actionable points so that tomorrow we can have a charter. Who delivered on what? We agreed with the county and we wanted, that's why we wanted that arrangement. If we were to have that bilateral, we were going to take care of majority of the issues that we can deal with. Provide more security cars, more surveillance. We were going to mobilize resources in terms of fueling for police cars. We were doing all that when we were talking to our business people, we were talking to stakeholders in the hotel industry and other industries that you need to commit a bit of your monies to this type of police booths and everything else. And it was almost in agreement. But I can't just go about and build a police booth. We can't just buy a police car. We can't just start to fuel a police. There has to be a certain agreement, a certain broad understanding of how it has to be done.
Weda.
Yes, let me tell you. We must also not forget that we must not forget the element of terrorism fueled by the war in Somalia. That aspect we must understand, and that war, I'm told, is in progress, although it is one of the demands by the court that the war has to be stopped. I keep on saying that Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga and Kalonzo Musyoka and Wetangula know exactly why the country went to war, because they are the ones who went to war. Mheshimiwa Raila was shadow president or co-principal. Kalonzo Musyoka was the vice president.
Yes.
Wetangula was the one in charge of foreign affairs. They all sat and agreed and said, let's go to war. Perhaps it would be time for them to tell us, we went to war for this and this and this reason, and these have now been accomplished. Therefore, withdraw these people. It is not good enough just when you are now in the opposition, you muddy the waters. When you are in, they saw the prudence. That time, Mheshimiwa Uhuru was outside. Mheshimiwa Ruto was outside. Now, we tell them that some of the agendas they had have not been completed. They will be completed and will come out. And so as we address security, we appreciate that element. And that element therefore requires the senator, requires the governor of Mombasa and the rest to join hands for the sake of Kenya. And for a moment to put aside CORD or Jubilee, Kikuyu or Kisii or Luo, to look at Kenya as a people, as a country, so that we deal with security. Then when we are all secure, we can play politics every minute, every day. But for now, that's why in some countries you declare a state of emergency. You say all this hate speech and politicking, reduce it until we secure the country. Then we move on.
Joy, I've spoken to Raila.
You can couple that with your final remarks.
I've spoken to Raila on that issue about the incursion in Somalia. I don't want to repeat what he says because I don't think it's fair for me to quote a discussion in private. But I have told him eventually he has to come bare because, I've had the Murkomans and the Wedas of this world saying Raila was in government at that time. We all know the type of government that we had at that point in time. We all know the sway, the monolithic nature of a very ethno-based security arrangement in the country, and who has been making the decisions around security. Raila will have problems even getting Kibaki to have a buy-in, even in appointment of commissioners. Trust me, he will be the last person who will be consulted in the deployment of troops in Somalia. And once the matter was in Parliament, it was said that it needed parliamentary approval. They said, no, this is not a war. What it requires parliamentary approval is a war. This is an incursion. Our president can order an incursion and things like that. So, and I can remember very many critical voices within the Orange Party, including some of us. So I think what then becomes part of your responsibility, particularly when you're at that level of leadership, and I sometimes feel for Bill Ruto and others, when your president takes a decision, unfortunately, you tend to sometimes, when it's not and it's a very fundamental decision, like committing countries, boys and girls, young men and women to war, you then don't come and say you want to consult. There's the agreement, which we signed as a pact, and so you try to own that process because of the intricate nature of war. And most of us also supported, on that basis that when your men and women are at war, you do not necessarily start to raise too many political issues. But now we are asking, it happens every time when there's a war. The George Bush got initial legitimacy. Then the citizens start to be critical about the cost of that war, the objective, and also sometimes demanding a phased withdrawal. And that's why we're saying if the objective was to push Al-Shabaab and disorganize their capacity to organize, then you have done that already. The military objective appears to us to have been achieved. Now you don't go about starting to sell charcoal and starting to take all these kinds of excesses that we hear in the UN reports. And what happens when you overstay your welcome in any place, you then become an occupation force. Even today, if your cousin from Kampala was to come to your place, the first 2 or 3 days you'll be very excited about him or her. And then as it starts to border over a month, you start to call your mom and ask them, why is you this son or daughter of your brother not living? And I think I'm not saying you particularly, that's what happens. It mutates. So every other place where there have been people in uniforms who are not citizens of those countries, eventually they have been viewed as an occupation force. It's not rocket science. And I think that's why at this point in time we're saying, it lets us know what the clear military objective is. It appears to have been achieved, and if it's not been achieved, then you have to have a systematic program of how to achieve it and have a phased withdrawal from Somalia.
Well, Weda, is that not, as final thoughts,
yes,
is that really not a reasonable, logical thing for us to say, why are we in Somalia in the first place? Can you articulate why we're there? Do you have a time frame or not?
Now, I've said before, and I keep on repeating, military issues are not for political rallies. They are not things, security, they are not things you stand on a rally or in Uhuru Park
No, as
or
the president.
somewhere.
No, the president of this republic. Does he not have
president-
responsibility?
Yes,
to let
and
them-
that responsibility the president is taking, and the timetable is there, the plans are there, everything is there.
Where?
It is only that now, Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga and his team, they are civilians. Do you understand? So you cannot, where do you address them? In a political rally at Uhuru Park? But if, for instance, the senators or the parliamentarians, they use that forum to say, Your Excellency, in your address this time, we want you to give us this and this and this. Just the way the budget is done. Then they will be, the president will be under an obligation to come and say, this is what we have done in Somalia, this is where we are, this is the cost, this is the timetable. But when you are just demanding it at Uhuru Park as part of a referendum, surely you don't expect a sitting head of state to reply either through Twitter or Facebook or political rally. No. That is not a propaganda.
But the issue of Somalia is not a referendum issue.
I think the issue of Somalia.
Number two, let me just also clarify one thing. It says in the Constitution, and I tell a lawyer to read his Constitution, that organs of national security shall be under civilian authority. Civilian authority here is the authority of the president, the authority of the head of state, and the authority of the people of Kenya. We will never allow to tell us that this is such an extraordinary science that nobody else can venture into it.
The president is no longer civilian. The moment you are sent
Civilian
to the presidency,
you become the commander-in-chief.
Which is civilian authority.
That is why occasionally I think they are
civilian authority.
Well, that is now semantics.
It's
But
civilian
running a
authority
country,
of the
you go
Constitution.
beyond semantics. Is now something real.
No.
I can only say that there are challenges, but that should not cover our mind to look at each other as Kikuyu, Kisii, whatever.
I think that the deputy president has put it categorically clear that, KDF was not going to pull out of Somalia. And he did give reasons that, insecurity in Kenya is, when there's insecurity in Kenya, of course, the entire region is affected. And when any other country is affected, Kenya is affected the most. And so pulling out of Somalia is not one of the options that are being considered, at least not anytime soon. And that is very clear. But gentlemen, thank you so much for showing up today. The way it is has been quite fantastic. Senator, you have so many questions that you're being asked here in regard to what exactly you're doing in your county that is in Mombasa. But
those are distractions.
I'm sure we'll just leave the Twitter platform for you to respond to that. And in the next hour, actually in this hour, we're going to be talking about DNA tests. I don't know if you would do a DNA test on any of your children, relatives, friends, family, friends, or something.
No, the only time I keep on saying as a family lawyer that I would recommend a DNA only if there is a dispute. Otherwise, I'm a firm believer that fatherhood is a fact. Nobody will just going to spring from wherever. Okay, today you walk in and say Weda is everything good is going Weda. Then he comes and says, I'm your father. It would not matter whether it is real, because the father I've known, the one that has pushed me out, is the one I know. So I would always say fatherhood is a fact. It is a way of life. And therefore I would not.
Right.
Unless there is something very strange. Otherwise, I would know that if I have my children and they're doing well, how would I do a DNA? Next stage, you have a successful girl like you.
Don't you have doubts
your daughter doing well, then you want to do a DNA. To do what? So
wouldn't you have doubts say, if I was your daughter, wouldn't you have doubts and say, honestly, who does this child look like?
But we live in a society where even ladies come with children. You marry her, she has a child, you say, this is my child.
Senator, would you do a DNA test?
DNA is a very important component, though, in terms of crime. I think we've been able to bust a lot of crimes when it comes to doing a DNA match. And I think we've been lucky. We've not had too many of those disputes in our own social setups about about people doubting parentities. But I would agree to the very ultimate, if there is a dispute that is almost getting out of hand, or somebody has surfaced. You could be having a successful daughter or you could be a successful father who a boy out there is being told that's your father, so go for this. So there's also that kind of situation. So I think when it is that's why I'm saying when in those kind of where you have to settle finality, where it's now a matter that has to be decided by virtue of law and fact, then you don't have much of a choice.
So
and I would add, DNA is also not foolproof. It's not. It's only that now we believe it is, but now when you go deep, it's not.
The doctors are here and they're going to be telling us whether or not it's 100%.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for coming today once again. Now we'll take a break, and coming up we're going to be speaking to Dr. Kalebi and one of the best lab scientists we have in the country, that is Eunice. So do stay with us as we decipher whether or not you can do a DNA test. I'm sure James Smart is so interested in this one.